Hi, Nick here from Korg, here at Guitar Center, checking out Korg Prologue, the latest in Korg's lineup of analog synthesizers. Prologue is the ultimate performance analog synthesizer, expanding on the technology of Korg's Minilogue and Monologue by offering an amazing multi-engine, which is an open-source digital oscillator, as well as high-quality 24-bit floating-point DSP-based effects, which are stereo and have multiple algorithms per type, allowing you to really top off your sounds with some amazing effects. Prologue is available in 16 voices with 61 full-size keys, or 8 voices with 49 full-size keys. Today, I'm working with the 16-voice model, so let's take a look at some of the stuff that's under the hood of this powerful synthesizer. Prologue has 3 oscillators per voice, 2 of which are fully analog, voltage-controlled oscillators, capable of all your typical analog waveforms, such as saw, triangle, and of course, pulse, which is fully pulse-width modulatable. Prologue's third oscillator is a digital multi-engine specially developed for the Prologue. It has 3 different modes, the first of which is a noise mode, which has 4 different types of noise, which you can use to make really cool percussive sounds or to add a little bit of grit to sounds like pads and chord sounds. The second mode on the digital multi-engine is VPM, or variable phase modulation. That includes all of your classic digital 80s waveforms like FM and phase modulated waves. The third engine is the user engine, which is really exciting because it's open source and allows you to upload up to 16 of your own waveforms or wavetables. Right out of the box, Prologue already comes with one wavetable preloaded in the user section of the multi-engine. Prologue's filter is a 2-pole analog resonant VCF with a 12 dB per octave cutoff slope. It's been specially tuned for polyphonic play to be clear and smooth even when you have a lot of voices going at once, and has a powerful low end even when you crank the resonance. There's a drive switch which will overdrive the signal going into the filter, a low cut which can clean up your low end, as well as a key track which can track 50 or 100%, so you can self-oscillate the filter and play it as another oscillator. Prologue's envelopes are standard ADSR-style synth envelopes with attack, decay, sustain, and release. One is dedicated to controlling the VCA, while the other is a modulation envelope which can control things like the filter cutoff or the pitch of one or more oscillators. The LFO has three separate modes: BPM, which can sync to tempo, internal or external, as well as a slow mode, which is a typical speed range for an analog synth, and fast mode, which you can crank all the way up into the audio rate range and get some incredible modulations. The LFO has three separate waveforms and three separate modulation paths. To top it all off from a sound design perspective, Prologue's effects section is incredible. Based on 24-bit floating point stereo DSP, the effects section has two units, one of which is for modulation. So that includes your choruses, phasers, flangers, and of course the legendary ensemble effect found on classic Korg synths like the Poly 6, as well as a reverb and delay unit. Delay algorithms include things like ping pong, tape, and stereo delays. And reverbs include things like halls, rooms, and of course, really cool nonlinear reverbs. The effects engine is of course fully open source, so you can upload your own custom user effects. Exclusively found on the Prologue 16 is the LF Comp with a real analog VU meter. It's an analog compressor with an additional gain stage designed to rein in the dynamics while still retaining the most power in your low end. Similarly to Korg's Minilogue, Prologue contains voice modes, which allow you to get the most out of Prologue's voices. These include a polyphonic mode, a monophonic mode, a unison mode where you can detune the oscillators of Prologue against each other for massive unison sounds, and a chord mode where you can play one key all across the keybed and use the voice mode depth knob to select what chord that key will play. All new on Prologue is multitimbrality, which allows you to split sounds, layer sounds, or even crossfade from one sound into another sound across Prologue's keybed. If you want to create a new split or a layer, simply select a sound and then use the program fetch function to fetch the program that you'd like to split, layer, or crossfade it with. Selecting programs on Prologue is easier than ever with a program sort mode, which allows you to sort programs based on, for example, their program number, or alphabetically, or a sonic characteristic like an envelope setting. Or you can create a live set list using 4 banks of 8 sound set list each. Now, as an additional performance feature, Prologue has an arpeggiator dedicated on the front panel, which will sync to internal tempo, external MIDI tempo, or even external analog clock sync tempo that comes in using the 1/8" jacks on the back of Prologue. The Prologue 16 has some really cool front panel features that make performance and sound design really easy, such as voice spread, which spreads Prologue's voices in the stereo field, kind of like some of the classic polyphonic 80s analog synths did, as well as, of course, a portamento control dedicated on the front panel, the voice mode depth knob that I talked about earlier, which increases the depth and functionality of Prologue's 4 different voice modes. And of course, the sub-main balance, which allows you to bring in more or less of your sub and main timbres in a split, layer, or crossfade. Prologue has a gorgeous knob-per-function black aluminum front panel, flanked by 2 hardwood sides, an OLED screen which displays the same oscilloscope from Minilogue and Monologue, so you can watch your sounds change in real time. On the back panel, you'll find USB, which allows you to connect your Prologue to your computer to access librarian functions to drag and drop programs into and out of Prologue, 5-pin MIDI in and out, analog sync for tempo, so you can sync to a Korg Volca or a modular Eurorack system, and of course, expression and damper pedal inputs. Prologue features a headphone out, as well as stereo outs on 2/4 inches. So that's Prologue, Korg's ultimate analog performance synthesizer for the stage or studio. To try one out in person, visit your local Guitar Center, or to learn more, go to guitarcenter.com.